What if your entire life could be explained by a simple glass jar? What if the reason you feel overwhelmed, lost, or exhausted has nothing to do with destiny, but with what you choose to put inside? This story will change how you see your time, your priorities, and your purpose forever. Once you understand the jar, you will never live your life the same way again. In a quiet village surrounded by tall golden hills, there lived a young man named Elias, known by everyone for one thing. He was always busy, always running, and always overwhelmed. Yet he never truly achieved anything. One morning, Elias visited the small workshop of Master Rowan, an old storyteller and philosopher who was famous for solving people's problems in mysterious ways. When Elias entered, he found something strange on the table. A large empty glass jar, shining under the morning light. Master Rowan looked at him and smiled gently. "Elias," he said, "you say your life feels chaotic. You say your days escape you like sand through your fingers. Before I explain anything, sit down and look at this jar." Elias frowned. "A jar? How can a jar fix my life?" Rowan raised a finger. "It will not fix your life, but it will explain it." Elias sat confused, as the old master slowly placed the jar between them. "Today," Rowan whispered, "you will learn why you feel lost, and why most people live without truly living." And with that mysterious sentence, the lesson began. Master Rowan reached under the table and brought out a small cloth bag. From it, he gently poured several large smooth stones onto the wooden surface. Elias watched in silence. Without explaining anything, the old master began placing the stones into the empty jar. 1, 2, 3, until it was filled to the top. Rowan asked, "Elias, is the jar full?" Elias nodded confidently. "Of course, master. It cannot take any more." Rowan smiled, not in agreement, but in amusement. "This jar," he said softly, tapping the glass, "represents your life. And these large stones represent the most important things. Your health, your family, your spiritual peace, your dreams, your purpose." Elias leaned closer, surprised. "So, these stones are the priorities?" "Yes," Rowan replied. "But most people live their entire life without ever fitting them into their jar. They fill their days with everything except what matters." Elias swallowed hard. It already felt like the jar was speaking to him. "But," Rowan continued, "our lesson is not over. You think it is full, but life has more to show you." He reached under the table again, this time bringing a small bowl of pebbles. What would happen next would change Elias's understanding of life forever. Without saying a word, Master Rowan slowly poured the pebbles into the jar. Elias' eyes widened as the small stones slipped into the empty spaces between the big ones, filling the jar even more. Rowan asked again, "Tell me, Elias, is the jar full now?" Elias hesitated this time, but finally he said, "Yes, now it must be full." Rowan gently shook his head. "These pebbles represent the things that feel important, but are not essential. Your job, your house, your responsibilities, your social obligations. All the things society tells you to prioritize." Elias nodded slowly. He understood. Rowan continued, "These things matter, yes. But they should never come before your big stones. Your health, your loved ones, your soul, your purpose. Yet most people let the pebbles push out what truly matters." Elias lowered his gaze. He had been doing exactly that. Rowan placed the jar back on the table. "But," he added softly, "we are not finished yet. You still believe this jar is full, but it is not." He reached again under the table and pulled out a bowl of fine sand, shimmering under the light. Elias leaned forward. What more could the jar possibly take? Master Rowan slowly tilted the bowl of fine sand over the jar. Elias watched in disbelief as the sand streamed down like golden dust, slipping effortlessly into the tiny gaps the pebbles had left behind. Within seconds, the jar, already filled with big stones and pebbles, had accepted all the sand. Rowan looked at Elias with calm, knowing eyes. "These grains of sand," he said, "are the countless small, meaningless distractions that consume our days. The gossip, the scrolling, the noise, the arguments. The things we worry about that never matter in the end." Elias sighed deeply. It felt like Rowan was describing his entire life. The master placed the empty bowl aside and asked, "Elias, if I had poured the sand first, what would have happened?" Elias answered instantly, "The big stones wouldn't fit. The important things would have no space." Rowan smiled. "And this," he said softly, "is why people feel empty. They fill their life with grains of sand until nothing meaningful can enter." Elias looked at the jar, now full to the very top, and whispered, "So now it's full?" But Rowan's eyes sparkled. "No," he said, "not yet." He reached under the table one last time, and revealed a small pitcher of water. Elias stared. Surely this was impossible. A soft smile curved on Master Rowan's lips as he lifted the small pitcher of water. Elias instinctively leaned forward, thinking the jar could take no more. Rowan gently poured. To Elias' astonishment, the water slid between the grains of sand, between the pebbles, between the big stones, filling every last empty space until the jar overflowed slightly. Rowan set the pitcher down and looked at him with warm, wise eyes. "This water," he said softly, "represents the simple human connections that give life its sweetness. A shared laugh, a moment of kindness, a conversation with a friend, helping a stranger, smiling at a child, forgiving someone who hurt you." Elias watched the jar glisten with the water inside it. "Even when life seems full," Rowan continued, "there is always room for a little warmth, a little compassion. These are the droplets that make a harsh life gentle, and a lonely life meaningful." Elias nodded slowly, deeply moved. Rowan placed the jar between them again. "Now," he said quietly, "look at this jar, Elias. Tell me, what have you learned so far?" Elias breathed deeply before answering. But what he realized next, wow, reshaped the entire lesson. Elias stared at the jar, now filled with stones, pebbles, sand, and water, and felt something stir inside him. He finally whispered, I understand, Master. My life feels overwhelming because I've been filling my jar with sand first. I chase small things, distractions, worries, and then I complain that I have no space for what truly matters." Rowan nodded slowly, pleased. "But," Elias added, frowning, "there is something I still don't understand. If my life is the jar, and the stones are priorities, why does it still feel like everything is heavy? Shouldn't knowing this make life easier?" The old master leaned forward, his voice lowering to a deep calm. "Elias, the jar does not feel heavy because of what is inside it. It feels heavy because you carry it the wrong way." Elias blinked. "What do you mean?" Rowan tapped the jar gently. "Most people hold their life at arm's length, fighting it, resisting it, overthinking it. That is why it becomes heavy." He placed his hand on his chest. "But when you carry your life close, with clarity, intention, and acceptance, its weight becomes natural, even meaningful." Elias felt the words settle inside him like a warm light. Rowan smiled. And our lesson is still not over. There is one more thing about this jar you must learn. A truth that most people never realize until it is too late. Elias leaned forward again, his curiosity burning. What could be more important than everything he had seen? He was about to find out. Master Rowan lifted the jar gently and placed it closer to Elias. Everything inside this jar, he said, represents your life. But do you see what everyone forgets? Elias examined the jar carefully. The stones, the sand, the water. But saw nothing unusual. I don't know, Master. What is missing? Rowan tapped the glass walls of the jar. This, he whispered. The container itself. Elias frowned. What do you mean? Rowan's voice grew deeper, almost solemn. The jar represents something far more important than everything inside it. It represents your time. And unlike the stones, the sand or the water, time does not stretch. It does not grow. It does not wait. Elias felt a chill run down his spine. Rowan continued. You can change your habits. You can change your priorities. You can remove distractions. You can add new dreams. But you cannot change the size of your jar. He paused, letting the truth sink in. Most people live as if they have an endless jar. As if they can always get another one. As if time is limitless. Elias lowered his head, thinking of all the hours he had wasted. All the days he had let slip away. Rowan placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. But you, Elias, still have the chance to fill your jar wisely. Elias lifted his gaze, his eyes determined. What must I do next, Master? Rowan smiled softly. To answer that, he said, you must face the real test. The part that reveals who you truly are. The lesson was about to deepen. And Elias's transformation had only just begun. Master Rowan stood up slowly and walked toward a shelf filled with jars. Big ones, small ones, cracked ones, beautifully carved ones. Elias watched, confused. Rowan selected 2 identical empty jars and placed them in front of Elias. Now, he said, it is your turn to choose. Elias blinked. Choose what, Master? Rowan reached under the table and brought out 3 objects. A large stone, a handful of sand, a small cup of water. He slid them toward Elias. Choose what to put into your jar first, Rowan said. No guidance. No hints. Your choice will reveal the direction of your life. Elias felt his heart pounding. He picked up the large stone and held it in his hand. It felt heavy, important, a symbol of what truly mattered. But then he looked at the sand. It was easier, lighter, effortless, just like the distractions that consumed his days. Then he looked at the water. The simple joys of human connection. Rowan watched him quietly, not moving, not speaking. Elias wrestled with himself. Part of him wanted to grab the sand first, because it was quick, familiar, comfortable. Another part wanted to choose the stone, but that meant facing effort, discipline, intention. Finally, Elias closed his eyes and took a deep breath. He reached forward and chose the stone. Rowan's eyes warmed with approval. Why did you choose this? The master asked gently. Elias answered with a new strength in his voice. Because I'm tired of living a life that feels full, but means nothing. Rowan nodded. You chose well. But choosing once is easy. repeating that choice every day. That is where the real transformation begins. Elias swallowed, suddenly aware of the weight of the journey ahead. Are you ready for the next lesson? Rowan asked. Elias nodded firmly. He had no idea what was coming, but he felt ready for the first time in years. Master Rowan picked up the jar Elias had filled with a large stone and held it up to the light. Elias, he said softly, you made the right choice. But now you must understand something deeper. Something people never realize until life breaks them. He set the jar down gently. You see the stone's weight, Rowan continued, but you do not see the weight of what you didn't choose. Elias frowned. What do you mean? Rowan took the handful of sand, the distractions, the small worries, the pointless noise of daily life. If you had chosen this first, he said, you would have felt busy. You would have felt active. You would have felt like you were doing a lot. He let the sand fall slowly between his fingers onto the table. But busy is not the same as productive. Noise is not the same as meaning. And motion is not the same as progress. Elias nodded slowly. Rowan continued. The sand makes your jar feel light at first, but it steals space from what matters. That is the hidden weight, the burden of lost potential. Elias felt the words hit him hard. Rowan then lifted the small cup of water. And if you had chosen this first, he added, life would feel pleasant, but empty. Joy without purpose becomes comfort. And comfort without direction becomes stagnation. Elias swallowed, absorbing every word. Rowan leaned closer. The weight you feel in life, he whispered, does not come from responsibilities. It comes from living without intention. Elias slowly exhaled. For the first time, he understood his own exhaustion. Rowan smiled. Now that you see the unseen weight, you are ready for the next step. Elias raised his eyes. What is it, Master? Rowan stood, tapped the jar, and said, you must now learn how to empty your jar. Elias looked shocked. Empty my jar? But Master, I thought the goal was to fill it correctly. Rowan shook his head gently. No, Elias. Before a person can fill their life with what matters, they must learn to let go of what does not. He lifted the jar Elias had filled with a large stone. Then he handed him a second empty jar. Life, Rowan said, is not about collecting more. It is about releasing what silently consumes you. Elias hesitated. What do I have to release? Rowan walked slowly around the room, speaking as he moved. Let go of the people who drain your spirit. Let go of the habits that steal your mornings. Let go of the fears that shrink your dreams. Let go of the doubts that whisper you are not enough. He returned to the table and tapped the full jar. Most people don't suffer because their jar is full, he continued. They suffer because their jar is full of the wrong things. Elias looked down at his hands. Rowan spoke again, voice soft but powerful. To empty your jar is to choose peace over noise, clarity over confusion, intention over impulse. He placed his hand on Elias's shoulder. In the days ahead, you will remove old beliefs, old fears, old weights. Only then will the big stones of your life truly fit. Elias nodded slowly. He felt something inside him loosen, as if he'd been carrying invisible chains he never noticed. Rowan smiled warmly. Now that you know how to empty your jar, he said, You must learn something just as important." He leaned closer, eyes gleaming with wisdom. "What you allow back in." Elias felt a shiver of anticipation. The real transformation was approaching. Master Rowan placed the 2 jars before Elias. One full, one empty. "This," Rowan said, pointing to the empty jar, "is the most dangerous moment in a person's life. The moment when they have space again." Elias looked puzzled. "Why dangerous?" Rowan's voice dropped to a quiet seriousness. "Because an empty jar attracts anything." He held up the handful of sand again. "The worries, distractions, gossip, pointless noise. If you do not choose consciously," he continued, "life will choose for you." He let a few grains fall to the table. "People will fill your time with their problems. Society will fill your mind with its expectations. Your old habits will try to return, because they hate emptiness." Elias felt a chill run through him. "So I must choose everything I let in?" Rowan nodded. "Everything. With intention. With awareness. With courage." He handed Elias the large stone, the symbol of what mattered most. "Start with this," Rowan said. "Your purpose. Your values. Your health. Place it before anything else." Elias gently lowered the stone into the jar. A deep calm filled him. Rowan smiled. "Next," he said, offering a few pebbles. "Choose the commitments that support your life. Your work, your home, your responsibilities. Not too many. Only what deserves space." Elias selected a few pebbles carefully and placed them in the jar. Rowan then held up the grains of sand. "And now," he said, "choose only the small things that add joy instead of stealing peace." Elias took only a pinch, and for the first time, he felt in control. Rowan finished the lesson by handing him the small cup of water. "These," the master whispered, "are the moments that make life beautiful. Leave space for them." Elias poured the water slowly, thoughtfully. When he finished, the jar looked balanced. Calm, clear, meaningful. Rowan stepped back, admiration in his eyes. "You have just done something most people never do," he said. "You have chosen your life on purpose." Elias looked at the jar, glowing in the evening light. "What comes next, Master?" he asked quietly. Rowan's smile deepened. "Next," he said, "you learn how to protect your jar. From the world. From others. And even from yourself." Master Rowan walked to the window, looking out at the village where people hurried, argued, rushed, and stumbled through their days without direction. "Elias," he said softly, "filling your jar wisely is not the end of the journey. It is only the beginning." He turned back toward him. "The world will always try to put things into your jar, even when you did not ask for them." Elias frowned. "Like what?" Rowan began to list them slowly, like weights falling onto the table. People's opinions. Their expectations. Their drama. Their judgment. Their noise. He tapped the table gently. "If you do not guard your jar, people will fill your life with their chaos. Until your purpose, your values, your dreams have no space left." Elias felt those words sharply, because he had lived that life for years. Rowan then placed his hand around the jar, shielding it. "To protect your jar," he said, "you must learn the power of no." Elias blinked. "No." Rowan nodded. A soft no to distractions. A firm no to toxic people. A calm no to unnecessary duties. A brave no to anything that steals your peace. Elias swallowed. I've always been afraid to say no. Rowan smiled gently. That is because you thought saying no meant you were rejecting others. But in truth, you are protecting the life you are trying to build. He placed the jar in front of Elias. Your time is sacred. Your energy is sacred. Your future is sacred. He paused, letting each word sink in. To guard your jar is to honor your life. Elias traced a finger along the glass. Master, how will I know when someone is trying to fill my jar with what doesn't belong? Rowan's eyes warmed. You will feel it here. He tapped his chest. In the tightening of your breath. In the heaviness of your heart. In the quiet voice that whispers, "This is not mine." Elias nodded slowly, understanding. Rowan folded his hands behind his back. And now, he said, you must face the most difficult lesson of all. He stepped closer. Learning to rebuild your jar when life breaks it. Master Rowan picked up a small jar from the shelf, one with a long crack running down its side. He set it gently in front of Elias. This, he said quietly, is the lesson most people discover only through pain. Elias leaned closer. What happened to it? Rowan sighed softly. Life happened. He traced the crack with his finger. No matter how carefully you fill your jar, there will come a day when life hits you hard. A betrayal, a loss, a failure, a heartbreak, an unexpected storm. He looked into Elias's eyes, and in those moments, the jar you built with patience and intention may crack. Sometimes it shatters entirely. Elias swallowed, remembering his own past failures. Rowan continued. A cracked jar cannot hold joy the same way. It leaks energy, hope, motivation. You feel tired without reason, lost without guidance, and empty even when you have everything. Elias nodded slowly. He understood that feeling all too well. Rowan then surprised him. He lifted the cracked jar and broke it further, the pieces scattering across the table. Elias gasped. Master, why did you do that? Rowan looked at the broken pieces calmly. Because some jars cannot be patched. Some chapters cannot be fixed. Some seasons must end for new ones to begin. He placed a new empty jar beside the broken one. When life shatters your jar, Elias, you must have the courage to build a new one. A stronger one. A wiser one. A cleaner one. Elias stared at the new jar. But what about everything I put inside the old one? The dreams, the values, the relationships. Rowan smiled gently. If they truly belong in your life, they will fit into the new jar. If they don't, their absence will make space for something better. He handed Elias the new jar. This is not the end of your story, Rowan whispered. It is the beginning of a stronger one. Elias took a deep breath. How do I rebuild it, Master? Rowan's eyes gleamed with quiet wisdom. First, he said, you learn to forgive the pieces. Elias looked at the shattered remains of the old jar. Sharp fragments scattered across the wooden table like memories he wished he could forget. Forgive the pieces, he repeated softly. How do you forgive something that hurt you? Master Rowan sat down beside him, his voice calm and warm. Elias, he said, every broken piece represents a moment in your life. A disappointment. A mistake. A wrong decision. A wound you tried to hide. He picked up a small shard of glass. When people suffer, they make two mistakes. They blame the jar, or they blame themselves. He set the shard gently back down. But healing begins not with blame, but with forgiveness. Elias stared at the broken pieces. What exactly must I forgive? Rowan smiled sadly. Forgive the moments you didn't know better. Forgive the days you were too tired to try. Forgive the people who cracked your jar, not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. He placed a hand on Elias's shoulder. Forgive your younger self for surviving the only way he knew how. Forgive your older self for carrying heavy things in silence. Elias felt a tightness in his chest, a pressure he'd been holding for years. Rowan continued, his tone like a gentle breeze. When you forgive the pieces, they stop cutting you. They stop controlling you. They become lessons instead of wounds. Elias closed his eyes, breathing deeply. The pain inside him softened, just a little. Rowan then lifted the new empty jar. Now, he said, you are ready for the final lesson. The moment when everything we learned comes together. He placed the new jar into Elias's hands. In the last step, Rowan whispered, you will learn how to fill a life. Not with urgency, not with fear, but with meaning. Elias opened his eyes, ready for the final part. This time, he felt no fear. Master Rowan stood before Elias, the room quiet, the air warm, the new jar shining in Elias's hands. This, Rowan said softly, is where the true transformation begins. Elias looked into the empty jar, not with fear this time, but with clarity. Rowan continued, a meaningful life is not built in a rush. It is built stone by stone, choice by choice, day by day. He placed a large stone on the table. Start each morning with your purpose. Before the world touches your mind, decide who you want to be. He placed a second stone. Honor your health. Your energy is the foundation of everything you dream of. He added a third. Protect the people who truly care for you. They are rare, and they are the treasure of your life. Elias placed the stones gently into his new jar. Next, Rowan slid a few pebbles toward him. These, he said, are your responsibilities. Organize them. Don't let them drown your essence. Elias added a small number of pebbles, only the ones that mattered. Then Rowan offered a small pinch of sand. Let the small joys enter, he said with a smile. A warm meal, a sunset, a moment of quiet, a breath you appreciate. Elias sprinkled the sand with gratitude. Finally, Rowan handed him the water. And always leave room, he whispered, for kindness, connection, simple human warmth. You will never regret these. Elias poured the water gently. The jar was now full. Not crowded, not chaotic, but balanced, peaceful, alive. Rowan stepped back, pride in his eyes. Elias, he said, you now hold a life chosen with intention. A life you understand. A life you can protect. Elias gazed at the jar, feeling something new inside himself. A quiet strength, a calm direction, a deep gratitude. He looked up at Master Rowan. Thank you, he said softly. I will never see my life the same again. Rowan smiled, eyes warm and wise. That, he said, is the power of the jar. It doesn't change your life. It changes how you choose to live it. Elias walked out of the workshop into the golden evening light, holding his jar close to his heart, ready to begin a new chapter.